1786, a Welshman by the name of Sir William Jones gave a speech to the Asiatic Society that would change history forever by suggesting that Sanskrit, Greek, Gothic, Celtic, and Persian languages all shared a common source. Expounding on the previous works of gentlemen such as Marcus van Boxhorn, who proposed a common origin of many European and Central Asian languages that he called Scythian, Jones's work would ignite a flame that would spread through academia like wildfire and begin the study of comparative linguistics. The language family proposed by Jones would come to be known as Indo-European, and the people who spoke it called themselves Aryans, and this is their story. Since the end of the Second World War, the term Aryan has become taboo and is no longer used by academics, but is actually the word that these people called themselves. The term likely emerged from the Iranian branch of the Indo-European language and is only applied to that branch of languages today, although similar words can be found in other Indo-European languages such as the Irish Are, the Gaulish Ario, and the Hittite Ara. Ancient texts such as the Rig Veda, the Avesta, and the tomb of Darius the Great also give us references to this term. 5,000 years ago on the Pontic-Caspian steppe in modern-day Russia, an archaeological culture known as the Yamnaya flourished. These nomads were a robust people who descended from mammoth hunters in Siberia thousands of years prior to arriving on the steppe lands. Living a semi-nomadic pastoralist lifestyle of herding cattle and moving from place to place on wheeled carts, Yamnaya people would eventually become the first people to domesticate the horse and combine these two technologies to create the first horse-drawn chariots. Proposed by Maria Gimbutas in the 1950s and recently confirmed by DNA evidence, the Kurgan hypothesis has proven that Indo-European origins lie on the steppe. Coined as the Kurgan hypothesis for the massive burial mound structures called kurgans that dot the landscape and indicate a highly individualized, hierarchical society, the people of the steppe worship powerful gods and were led by nothing less than an aristocracy of chariot-riding god-kings. In time, they would leave their homeland and become the patriarchs of much of the known world. Adorned in gold atop chariots pulled by horses that they had learned to tame centuries before, and wielding bronze swords, these warriors set out on a conquest across the known world. This, along with an incredibly rich religious belief system, is what set the Indo-Europeans apart from the civilizations that they conquered and subjugated. By the time that the Indo-Europeans began their expansion between 2000 and 1500 BC, many cultures across the known world had flourished for millennia. The Egyptians, Mycenaeans, Mesopotamians, Indus Valley civilizations, and Neolithic farmers of Europe had all experienced their own golden ages and technological revolutions, but would soon be forced to ward off these fearsome invaders from far-flung unknown lands. These invasions are evident in sources such as the Hindu scripture, the Mahabharata, Egyptian writings, and Greek myths. Recent DNA evidence has shown an almost entire replacement of Neolithic male population in Europe with steppe DNA, backing up claims from ancient sources of wild, drunken, promiscuous, chariot-riding men of antiquity. The Indo-European religion and social structure could be considered the predecessor to the Indian caste system, the Western patriarchy, and many elements that could be argued exist to this day. The Neolithic cultures that preceded the Indo-Europeans would have been patriarchal, but less so than the Indo-European speakers. Usually being an agricultural society, Neolithic farmers in many areas worshipped a fertility earth goddess. Some of these gods and goddesses were likely incorporated into the pantheon of the Indo-Europeans, such as the Vanir gods of the indigenous Scandinavians. Religious scholars have pointed out many commonalities between Celtic and Norse paganism, Zoroastrianism, Hinduism, and other religions potentially spread by Indo-European peoples. The storm god known as Indra shares many characteristics with Zeus and Thor in the West. Prayer structure and rituals being the foundation of their society change very little in their basic form, with many elements still present even in Catholicism today. Many of our traditions, such as Christmas, Easter, and even our days of the week, are remnants of Indo-European traditions. A good example of congruent religious structures from these are the hierarchy of the Atman in Hinduism and the Logos in Greek philosophy. Archaeogeneticists use haplogroup analysis to study the movements of ancient populations to help us understand history, and the recent Human Genome Project has caused a revolution in the way we study the past. Paternal haplogroups carry from father to son, and mitochondrial haplogroups from mother to daughter. This allows geneticists to trace how ancient people moved. Paternal haplogroups R1a and R1b are the most common haplogroups associated with Indo-Europeans, and researchers such as Harvard's David Reich have proven many theories from the early 1900s that were abandoned after World War II to be true, such as the Aryan invasion of India. Due to the Nazi affinity of the Aryans, many Western schools have stopped teaching us this critical part of our history. One of the most important elements of the ancient world that we are not taught in school is the origin of many of the great civilizations. Among the list of civilizations that have Indo-European roots are the Greeks, the Romans, the Hittites, the Persians, the Celts, the Thracians, Slavs, Indians, Germanic tribes, and that includes the people of the British Isles and even America. The genetic results of the Egyptian pharaoh Tutankhamun are even shown to be haplogroup R1b. This doesn't mean that Egyptians were all Indo-Europeans, since most of the population belonged to haplogroup E1b1b and possibly J2. But what it does say is that at one point in time, the kings were of Indo-European stock. An archaeological culture known as the corded ware in what is today Germany and Scandinavia carried a very high percentage of haplogroup R1a, and the bell beaker culture of Western Europe is associated with R1b. The Western hunter-gatherers native to the region who are associated with haplogroup I1 appear to have either welcomed the Indo-European speakers or managed to fight back against them due to the still high concentration of I1 in the region today. Haplogroup R1a expanded through the corded ware in Northern Europe and the Centashtina in Iran and India. This haplogroup is most common today in Poland, where it reaches up to 50%. Haplogroup R1b is the most common haplogroup in Western Europe. Haplogroup R1a is strongest among Hindu Brahmins, the high caste of India, still to this day, and nearly all the past and present kings of Europe belong to haplogroup R1b. In the modern day, any discussion regarding phenotype can be highly controversial, but DNA evidence would suggest that these people likely carried the genes for blonde hair and blue eyes, though it cannot be 100% confirmed that they actually were blonde hair and blue-eyed. The caste system in India has many elements that could deem it a racial hierarchy, and this may have been the case for many other civilizations of the ancient world. However, racial superiority was likely not the motive of these ancient people, but instead a spiritual hierarchy was of the utmost importance. The only reason there would have been a racial element to the structure is that the Indo-Europeans would have been light-skinned, and many of the people they conquered were darker-skinned, therefore due to circumstances being established lower in society. When you look at any of the early writings from these cultures, there seems to be a common idea that the king should be regal in his actions and resemble a god on earth with a high caste of either warrior or priests that would partake in ritualistic behavior as a tool to maintain social order. The legacy of the Indo-European speaking peoples has shaped the modern world into its current form, and the battles fought and the blood shed by our ancestors will live on in our daily lives and in our veins so long as we continue to honor their traditions. One of the most important things we must realize in an ever-changing modern world is that all of the comforts and conveniences we have today were built on the backs of these enigmatic people, and the more we shift away from the roots that they planted, the more fragile we become. The more we turn toward a Neolithic communal way of living, the more likely we are to fall to a society that resembles that of the ancient Aryans.